As we are approaching the end of the year, reflecting on this year and thinking about what we want to accomplish next year, a key element in all of that is understanding what success means to you. As working moms, it's so easy to get caught up in what society or others define as success, whether it's climbing that corporate ladder, keeping the house spotless, which, side note, if that was my definition of success, I would be a complete failure, or being that perfect parent. But here's the truth: success looks different for everyone. And the key is to define it in a way that feels aligned with your values and the season of life you're in. So today I'm sharing my tips on how to define success for you. But before we jump in, I wanted to share that I opened up a few more discovery call spots. If you haven't listened to last week's episode on finding your purpose outside of motherhood and work, please do so. I offer to be your guide and help you think through what your next steps could look like. I am so passionate about helping working moms find and pursue their passion, and that includes helping you define what success looks like and finding the time and the space to focus on what lights you up. So if you want to discover what is possible for you in the new year, book a discovery call with me today. They are short and they are free, so you literally have zero to lose and so much to gain. Check out the show notes for the link. Are you feeling overwhelmed trying to juggle all the many hats you wear as a working mom? Do you want more quality time with your family without distraction of work and time alone to take care of yourself and your needs? Welcome to Mom Wife Career Life. I'm Carrie, a wife, mom of 3, and a recovering perfectionist. In this podcast, I will teach you how to create balance in your life by implementing healthy habits, organizing your home and your schedule, being intentional with your time and in your relationships, and most importantly, how to start putting your needs first, because no one can pour from an empty cup. Grab that second cup of coffee, or if you're anything like me, your third. It's time to dive into today's episode of Mom Wife Career Life. I'm really big on signs. I truly believe that if you ask God or your angels for signs, that they will send them. You just have to be open to receiving them. Well, last week, as I was editing my birthday episode on finding your purpose outside of motherhood, at the exact time when I got to the part of trusting in God's timing, I received a DM on Instagram from a listener telling me how much she loved the show and thanking me. And I can't begin to tell you what that DM meant to me and what receiving it at that specific moment meant. It literally made my eyes well up with tears. In that DM, she also suggested 2 podcast topics, which, side note, if you actually listen all the way through the end of my exit music of this podcast, I encourage all of my listeners to do so. This podcast is for you. I want to help you with whatever it is you're struggling with. So if you have a topic you would like me to cover, please don't be shy. I am literally just a DM away. And I promise I read and I answer every single one personally. I love hearing from you. It's really hard being a podcast host because other than people leaving you a review or rating the show, which not all listeners take the time to rate or review, and I totally get that, especially for my busy moms out there. If you're anything like me, you're multitasking while listening, but there is no way to tell if listeners actually like an episode or if it resonates. The only inkling I get that you guys are liking the show is that my downloads aren't increasing month after month. So when you reach out, it gives me that little validation I need from time to time. So if you ever want to connect, I encourage you to do so. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at mom.wife.career.life too and DM me there. One of my goals for 2025 is to be more vocal on Instagram and start kind of doing videos for everyone. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I don't post that often, but I do check my DMs daily. So please reach out. So the topic she asked me to cover is around success and what it means, which is also ironic because I did touch on that very topic in one of the tips in last week's episode that I was editing when I received her DMs. See those signs? 2-in-1 DMs. So success. The thing about success is that it looks different for everyone and means something different to everyone. So today, I'm going to help you define success on your terms. So let's get started. And we're starting with number 1, clarify your core values. You can't define success without taking the time to do some inner work, and that involves understanding what is truly important to you. What truly matters? Is it being a present parent when you're with your kids, advancing in your career, prioritizing your health? Think of your values as your roots. What keeps you grounded and feeling like you are in control? Defining your roots will guide and act as your compass when you're making decisions on your journey. The more clear you get on your values, the stronger your roots will become. And the stronger your roots are, the more balanced you're going to feel. And just a side note, success should reflect your personal priorities, not someone else's expectations. Once you are clear on what your values are, that's when you're able to start prioritizing your time around those values. So, for example, if family time and career growth are two of your core values, success might look like leaving work on time 3 days a week to be present for dinner and then dedicating focused energy on the other 2 days a week to kind of work towards that. Number two, redefine balance. People tend to picture one of those balance scales when they think about work life balance. I'm telling you right now to get that image out of your head. Work should never have equal weight to everything else in your life all the time. What I teach is to picture work life balance like one of those balancing stones where each stone or rock is one of the many hats you wear as a working mom. Some hats are more important and they're the bigger stones, and then the smaller hats you wear are those smaller stones. So, for example, my very big stone is being a mom, and then I might have a smaller one for being a Girl Scout troop leader. On any given day, you're gonna have to stack your rocks or your hats by priority, with the higher priority hats or rocks on the bottom. And sometimes that smaller rock has to take priority of one of your bigger rocks. So it has to go closer to the bottom, but those other rocks don't go away. You just have to figure out how to balance them on top of the smaller rocks. Hopefully, I didn't completely lose you there. So, back to the hats I wear. If I have a Girl Scout event one day, that Girl Scout rock will be closer to the bottom, but that mom rock is still there. So it has to go on top of that Girl Scout troop leader rock. Hopefully that made sense. But regardless of how you picture it, work life balance doesn't mean equal time for everything. It's about creating a harmony. Some days work has to take priority, others family does. Balance is flexible, it's not rigid. So when you look at your week, think of what balance might look like for you, and it can change daily. Maybe you need to prioritize work this week because you have a big project going on. So that's going to be the big rock that you put on the bottom Monday through Wednesday. But then on Thursday and Friday, you're prioritizing your family. So that rock would go on the bottom. And side note, self should be one of those rocks and should be one of the top priorities daily. You will never have balance if you don't make time for self care. Number three, set your own benchmarks. I really want you to hear this and take it to heart. Stop comparing your journey to others. Comparison truly is the thief of joy. Your success is not measured by someone else's highlight reel or someone else's expectations of you. Define what's meaningful to you, whether it's landing that promotion, eating dinner as a family on most nights, finally reading that book that's on your nightstand. And I know it's hard when you see other people are doing it. I struggle with this one too, especially when it comes to this podcast. I look at my peers that started around the same time as me, and there are some that are a lot more successful than I am. But when I start that comparison, I have to stop and remind myself that this is my journey and everyone's journey is unique to them. So don't measure your success against someone else's. Your journey, your goals, and your wins are uniquely yours. If a colleague gets promoted, but you've decided success means scaling back to spend more time with your kids, that's still success. Your win could be negotiating a reduced workload to align with your priorities or getting to work remote more often because you get to be home with your kids. Number four, understand that your self worth isn't measured by your success. I think I need to do an entire episode or series on this one because it really strikes a chord with me. I see it every day in the corporate world from both ends of the spectrum where people lower on the org chart put people higher on the org chart on such a pedestal and vice versa. I coach my clients and my team on this all the time. Do not give anyone that power over you. Just because someone has a higher title than you does not make them better than you. Yes, you may need to be more accommodating or bite your lip on certain things, but they are a person just like you. I give the analogy of meeting that higher person in a grocery store. If you didn't know who they were and they were standing around picking out fruit just like you are, you wouldn't treat them any differently than you would anyone else in that store. Outside of the office, they aren't a person on an org chart. They are a neighbor, a parent, a son, a daughter. And I promise you, they are not perfect. So don't be intimidated. And on the flip side, if you're higher on the org chart, don't make people that are in lesser roles feel like they are any less important than you are. When I was a property manager, I didn't care if you were the person who cleaned the toilets or the CEO of my largest tenant. I treated you exactly the same. So please keep that in mind wherever you land on your org chart or in your company. Treat everyone as your peer. Number five, just because you can doesn't mean that you have to. This one is coming from the heart and is something I used to struggle with big time. I spent my younger years wanting to be on top, wanting to get that title, that pay, And I don't know if it was to prove it to myself that I'm capable or to those that ever doubted I would be successful. And just on a side note, I was not the easiest child and I didn't always make the best choices. So there are plenty of people out there that I'm sure thought that I wouldn't make something out of my life. And maybe it's them that I'm trying to prove something to. But I got to the point where I don't want to move up the corporate ladder any further if that means that I will have to sacrifice any of the things that are my non negotiables, which front and center of that right now is my family. I absolutely know I'm capable, but that is not a priority in my life right now. I actually tried to be complacent a few years ago in a lesser role, but one of my previous managers saw my skill set and kept pushing me into bigger roles, and it definitely affected my work life balance. So you have to get really clear on what's important to you. And back to the whole self worth, don't feel like you need to take that step up to feel better about yourself or to prove to someone or even yourself that you can do it. Success is not defined by your title. To me, I feel like I am more successful than a lot of people I meet that have better titles or higher pay than me because I feel like I have a better perspective of life and have my priorities straight. And not to put a grim swing on things, but I know when it's my time to leave this life, I will have very few regrets. I will not regret not going for that bigger role that would have paid a lot more, but I would have had to travel all the time or go back to working in the city at least half the week. Because if I did that, then I would be missing out on the things that are a priority for me, like making it to Kaylee's basketball games. And again, this is my definition of success. I am not putting down the mamas that are in those jobs that require them to travel and you unfortunately have to miss things. Your definition can be completely different. I just want you all to take the time to reflect on the why behind your decisions and make sure that it aligns to what your values are, that you're taking the time to understand what's important to you. And don't get me wrong, I know it feels better when someone asks you what you do for a living to say you're a director, a VP, or a senior, whatever, than it is saying you're an assistant or an analyst. But really, it goes back to the whole stop caring what other people might think of you. Know you are more than the title your company gives you. Number 6, focus on progress, not perfection. Sending all the love to my perfectionist mamas out there. If you're in our Facebook group, this topic actually came up this week. Success isn't about doing it all perfectly. It's about showing up, making progress, and learning as you go. Perfectionism can be crippling and become such a serious roadblock. Perfection is unattainable. Believe me, I spent years trying to achieve it. And guess what? I failed. Trying to make things perfect is such a time suck, an energy suck, and an emotion killer because it's unattainable. So if you're striving for perfection, you will always feel like you are falling short. So focus on the progress. Progress, no matter how small, moves you forward. And I know I've been focusing a lot about success at work, but this is also about success in anything you do. And as we're approaching the end of the year, and hopefully you're starting to think about what your goals are going to look like for next year, this applies to them too. If one of your goals is to run a 5K, but you can only fit 10-minute runs into every week, celebrate that. Those little moments add up to big things, and doing something is better than doing nothing. Number 7, align your goals with your season of life. Success will look different depending on your current phase. Whether you have a new baby, you're growing your career, starting a business, if you have older kids that are preparing for college, or even taking care of aging parents, your priorities shift depending on what's happening in your life. Success for a mom with an infant looks very different than for a mom with a teenager. So give yourself grace and adjust your expectations and goals to fit where you are right now. A lot of love going out to my mamas with babies. Enjoy this time and give yourself grace. You have a lot of years left to focus on things outside of your family, and kids grow up so fast. So when it comes to goals and success, be easy on yourself. Sometimes success means staying sane or squeezing in a shower during nap time. The struggle is real. Been there, done that. I feel you. Sending you love. Or if you have a toddler at home, success might mean maintaining a steady, decent paying job rather than chasing the high pressure promotion. In another season, you might aim for a career jump because you have more of that mental space to tackle it. But honestly, every season of life comes with its challenges, so you have to adjust your expectations and your goals to fit where you are right now. Number 8, prioritize health and well being. True success includes your overall health, your physical, your emotional, your mental. You can't pour from an empty cup. And if you have this high paying job with that impressive title, or you're running your own business, but you're stressed all of the time, or you're stuck at your desk all day, so you're eating unhealthy and not moving your body, it's going to take a toll on you. And I'm speaking from experience. You need to make time for self care, for sleep, making movement part of your daily routine. You can't be successful in any role, being a mom, a partner, or a professional, if your health is suffering. And I know it all comes down to having the time. I promise you, you have the time. You're just wasting it on things like scrolling through Instagram reels or TikTok videos. So put down those cell phones and start stretching. Dance around your kitchen, take a bath, take a walk, meal plan, healthier meals. And if you need help with putting down your cell phones, grab my Tech Timeout Guide for Moms freebie. The link is in the show notes. I share tips to put those boundaries in place with your cell phone so you can literally get hours back in your week. And side note, some self care can include your cell phones, like listening to a personal growth podcast like this one while you're out on a walk or commuting to work. If you take the bus or the train, you could be looking up healthy meals or quick exercises you can do in the kitchen while you cook instead of scrolling through social media because you know that's what you're doing while you're on the bus. But do yourself and your future self a favor and grab your free guide in the show notes. I also have a meal planning freebie guide in the show notes as well, so you can grab that one too while you're at it. Number 9, define success daily. Success doesn't have to be this big, far off goal. So ask yourself, what does a successful day look like? Maybe it's completing a work task, playing with your kids, or getting 20 minutes of exercise in. A great way to tackle the day is to pick 3 things that are important for you to get done, that if you got them done at the end of the day, you would be able to look back at the day and feel successful. So I incorporate this both in my personal morning routine. I pick 3 personal things I need to get done that day. And then in my morning work routine, I pick 3 things that I need to get done in my workday. Or if you have a big thing that you need to get done that day and it's going to take up a whole lot of time, then maybe you just have a list of 1 thing. But most days, I promise you, you can come up with 3. When you do this, you give yourself areas to focus on. And at the end of the day, when you see you got those things done, you will feel so much better about your day. And just back to the work piece, I actually block out the first half hour to hour of my morning to prepare for the day and start working on the first big item on that list. So I highly recommend doing that. And another thing I do, and some of you might think I'm a little crazy, but I know there are some of you that are right there with me on this one. Sometimes other things come up during the day that weren't on my list that have to take a priority. Like yesterday, my manager needed something from me. So I did that instead of one of the things on my list. I worked on it and I sent it right away, but then I wrote it down on my list and I crossed it off. And why did I do that? Because when I look at the list at the end of the day and I see the things I didn't get done, sometimes mentally I feel discouraged because in my head, I feel like I wasn't productive as I could have been. But when I write the other things down that I did and cross them off, it gives me the satisfaction of seeing that I accomplished something else and to give myself grace on the things that I didn't get done. It's a mental trick that works for me. We're all built differently, but it may work for you too. So try it out. Number 10, count your wins, big and small. Take time to acknowledge your accomplishments, no matter how small you think they are. It's human nature to focus on the things that didn't go well or the things that we didn't get done rather than the things that did go well in a day and that we did get done. So I want you to flip that mental switch in your head. Did you manage a tough work week, sneak in 10 minutes of me time, or handle your toddler's tantrum like a boss? That is success. Write these wins down and remind yourself how amazing you are. Success isn't just these big milestones, it's about celebrating the small movements that really move us forward. For me, a big win this year was consistency. I consistently released at least 2 episodes a week this year, and some weeks it was more than that. There are times when I get seriously disappointed, discouraged, and beat myself up for not finishing and launching my course this year or not being further along with my business. But I stop and I remind myself of the fact that I was able to release over 104 episodes this year while working my full-time corporate job, being a present mom, a wife, and juggling all the other crazy things life threw at me this year. So that's something to celebrate. And each episode was a very small moment that moved me a little forward. And this also comes down to trusting in God's timing. Everything happens when it's meant to happen. Number 11, let go of the guilt. Success doesn't mean doing it all or being everything to everyone. So give yourself permission to say no, to set boundaries, and to be unapologetic about prioritizing what matters to you. Guilt holds you back. Self-acceptance moves you forward. You can't do it all perfectly, and that's okay. So don't feel guilty for prioritizing yourself or saying no to the things that don't align to your version of success. I shared that I'm in a season of saying no to things that I would have normally said yes to. This holiday season, there were things that we just didn't do, traditions that we broke because they no longer aligned what my priorities are right now. So when things come up, ask yourself, does this align with my priorities right now? And if it doesn't, give yourself permission to say no without the guilt. And last but not least, number 12, define success for your family together. Try to include your family in the conversations about what success looks like. Maybe as a family, you'll decide that's family dinners 3 nights a week, family game night on Fridays, or Sunday morning adventures, or even just stress free mornings. Because moms, I feel you. When everyone's on the same page, it just feels a lot more attainable. Having informal meetings can really be a game changer and really make not only you, but everyone in your family feel heard. It also teaches your kids how to communicate. So I highly recommend it. And honestly, the younger you start this with your kids, the better. My teens don't love it when we sit down and go over things. So I don't like to call them family meetings because the second those words come out of my mouth, I get the eye rolls. So you can have the discussions while you're already sitting down to eat dinner, slip it in while they're eating and they can't get up. But success isn't just about you. It's about what works for your family. You getting that promotion that would require you to travel more and miss things, your family needs to be on board with that, especially your spouse or partner, because it means more responsibility will fall on them and your kids will need to step up too. One of our family goals this year was having a new experience every month. And there are some months where I picked the things we had them pre-planned, like our trip to Greece. But there were other months where we discussed it as a family to see what everyone wanted to do. And side note, I highly recommend incorporating this as one of your family goals for 2025. We had such a great year. We made a lot of amazing memories this year, and it's something we're going to be doing next year too. So I can't wait. So, success is personal. It's not about achieving everything at once. It's about creating a life that feels intentional, fulfilling, and aligned with what matters most to you. I'd love to hear what success looks like for you. So come on over to our Facebook group, Work Life Balance for Working Moms, and tell us all about it. If you don't already follow the show, take a second and hit that follow button so you never miss another episode. Sending you so much love and light until next time on Mom Wife Career Life with Carrie Pat. Before you go, if you found this podcast helpful, I would be so grateful if you would take a minute, go on over to iTunes and leave me a review. If you have other stressed out mamas in your life that you feel this podcast could help, take a screenshot of this episode, post it on your Instagram stories and tag me, and let them know that they are not alone and they can create balance in their life too. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover or you just want to connect, DM me on Instagram at mom.wife.career.life or come on over and hang out in our free Facebook community, Work-Life Balance for Working Moms. Sending you so much love and light until next time on Mom Wife Career Life with Carrie Pat.